This Friday, see what critics are calling a cold-blooded masterpiece.
Hello, Finney.
You're dead. Dead is just a word.
Did you think our story was over?
Discover the secret
You brought us here for a reason.
behind the mask.
What do you think happens when you die? It's time to find out.
Ethan Hawke,
I'm not afraid of you. You should be.
Black Phone 2, only in theaters Friday. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
Alright, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the TMossBoss Show. And in today's episode, so I seen this video where it's a little irritating because it ain't got nothing to do with me, so I can't be all that irritated. But no, it's things like that where I'm like, where a person wants too much from a relationship, or it's like they make it seem like that they own the relationship. Like I'm supposed to, I guess, make them feel better. I don't know, like relationships like this are so confusing to me because I'm like, fam, shouldn't a relationship be equal and overall, like, you know, you just have respect for one another? Like, you're not going to say or do anything disrespectful. Like, it's you know, it's like cut down the middle. Like, you do your thing, be respectful. I do my thing, be be respectful. At the end of the day, we meet up. Or even if it's like, I don't know. Like, it's just on something where when we get together, that's when it's a relationship. That's when it's like, you know, I guess depending on what kind of, because, yeah, you know, I mean, there's so many different types of relationships out there. I always go based off of the good old-fashioned, normal, one-on-one, no other parties, you know, like nothing being disrespectful. It's just, it's a respectful relationship. I'm watching this video, and it was of this UFC fighter. She was talking about, I don't even know who the woman was. Like, it was somebody, like maybe she is somebody famous, and people are gonna be coming after me. I was like, oh, how do you not know that UFC fighter? Fam, I don't really be watching UFC like that. So like that's even more. I just know, I don't know if she's a UFC fighter. I'm like, UFC is the organization. She could just be like just a somewhat famous MMA fighter or something. I don't know who this girl was, but anyways, let's just call her a mixed, MMA fighter, because I don't know who she is. I don't know what she's a part of, what organization, all that stuff. But anyways, so this MMA fighter, she gets on this, she was on Joe Rogan's podcast, so she must be a UFC fighter, unless she was like a beginner, fighter, but she was just really famous. But I'm assuming that she was a UFC fighter. She was on Joe Rogan's podcast. So anyways, she's on his podcast. She was talking about, I don't know if it was like her current or ex or whoever, but anyways, she was talking about her significant other, how he was in the middle of a fight because she was also dating a UFC fighter. So they both was fighting on the same card, and his fight had happened first. He's fighting, I guess at some point in time, he almost gets knocked out, or he does get knocked down. His opponent, he's over him. He's trying to knock him out. Like, if you know what UFC is about, it's not like how it is in boxing. Like when you knock your opponent down and stuff, you go over to the corner and you wait for them to get back up. No, UFC, in case of you never watched a UFC fight before, like, but you've heard of it, like, you know, but you don't know what it's about. The intentions when you're fighting someone is that you want to make sure of it, that they are knocked out. Yes, you will knock them down, and you'll see where it's like they're conscious or somewhat conscious and stuff. I feel like, if you follow me, like, I played some UFC games before. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you didn't, but anytime when I knock down a person, I'm jumping on top of them and I'm trying to knock them out. The part that was confusing to me, and it's irritating, was that, so her boyfriend is getting, he's getting, like, the guys on top of him, punching him, trying to, like, knock him out and stuff. And, I guess from what I read, he didn't get knocked out. The boyfriend actually had won the, fight. But anyways, but during that time where he got knocked down and the UFC fighter was, his opponent was, like, trying to knock him out, the boyfriend, I guess at some point in time, covered his head to prevent, or I guess was like trying to like block the shots. But the thing is this though, I guess like if somebody's never been put in that position where it's like you're fighting somebody and they get the upper hand, but you don't want to get knocked out. So what does most people do? They try blocking the shots, you know, to the best of your ability, right? She goes out on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about it was a turnoff that he had, I guess, blocked it a certain way. Like, I don't know, like, the best way I could describe it is that, you know, like, when you're getting whooped as a kid, and then you're trying to, like, block the belt or something like that. I guess he did something along the lines of that. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, fam, if I'm a UFC fighter, and I know that the UFC fighter that I'm fighting, he has the upper hand. Like, he's moments away from knocking me out. I am going to block this man's shots to the best of my ability. I'm not going to allow him to overall, like, just, I want to save face with my girlfriend, so I'm just gonna allow him to just, I'm like, you got me down, so knock me out like a man. It's things like that where I'm like, lady, either you haven't been in good fights or whatever, but my thing is you're gonna block somebody's shots if you get hit. But like I'm watching that and I'm thinking to myself, she expects, I guess, like whoever her boyfriend is, whether it's current or future, she is expecting them to see that and to listen to it and take it down, right? And you know, all that other stuff like, I gotta write this down on a sticky note and put it on our front door and stuff. You know, like I gotta, this is how I gotta go about our relationship. I have to give my or allow myself to get brain damage and stuff because I'm trying to look like a man for my girlfriend. Fam, here's the thing. To whoever this woman was, that man doesn't have to, I guess when it comes to stuff like that, he ain't gotta listen to you. He doesn't. It's like if he wanted to look like a little girl in the middle of that match, I guess blocking the guy's shots and stuff, if it prevents him from getting knocked out and then winning the fight like how he did, my thing is this: I will listen to him more than I will listen to you when it comes to that, because it sounds like you wanted him to get knocked out. And what was funny was that she lost her fight that night. So I was looking through the comments because I'm like, it's just, to me, it's funny. I see videos like that and I'm like, I got to see the comments. I got to see what people are saying and stuff. And no, there's a couple of people that had said that it's funny she says that, but she lost the fight that night and he won. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you're watching that video, you're like, oh, he 100% lost the fight, and she must have won the fight or something like that. She's talking as if she won, but she lost. I'm like, lady, that's even more so. I'm like, yeah, see, listening to your own philosophy on how to be a fighter, a warrior, and all this other stuff, you lost your fight. So I'm like, how do you think that's, I guess, like, who do you think is going to have a longer, MMA career and stuff? The one that's like pretty much giving out advice saying, hey, in order to look like a man in front of your girlfriend, allow yourself to get hit. But don't be, blocking shots or blocking it in a way where I don't like it. That to me, it's stuff like that I just, that don't make no sense. But just to even talk on that, because it's funny, I created a channel a while back on YouTube where it's like TMossBoss the Love Doctor. Cause man, at times I just be wanting to give out relationship advice. I'm like, I felt like I was giving out good advice when I was doing those Reddit episodes. I'm like, man, I gotta create a channel based off of it, just based off of certain. I'm like, I think that might be a video I'll talk on there and stuff. But anyways, but the thing is this though, with relationships, you can't want something from a relationship that's only going to benefit you. You can't go and be like, oh, I want this with the relationship, I want that with the relationship, and you have to obey by it. You have to no, that's not what a relationship is. What it sounds like is that you want to be some controlling Andrew Tate figure, Myron Gaines mindset and stuff, and it's things like that where I'm like, that's not a healthy relationship. To me, a healthy relationship is where you guys are doing whatever it is that you do throughout the day. You have nothing but the most amount of support for each other. And you going about each other's lives. Like, obviously, yeah, you know, you see your guys' relationship all the way through and all that stuff. Like, obviously, you know, you want it to be a good relationship. And I mean, if you guys go your separate ways at some point in time in the relationship, then so be it. But respect has to, it's one of those things that it's like when you guys decide to get into a relationship, respect has to be given on both sides. It doesn't matter. And it's like, yeah, crack jokes, have fun, all that other stuff. But when you're going out on I don't know if that part, I guess, like, I don't know, maybe because I'm a little tired. You know, I woke up a little bright and early this morning. It was maybe less than an hour ago. You know, it usually takes my brain a moment to process. I'm getting up there in age, people, you know. So, but anyways, as I'm 29 years old, so I'm not that. I should be, you know, have a little bit more energy and stuff. I'm like, man, I be tired some mornings. So, but anyways, if they are still in a relationship, I'm like, it's one of those things where if I'm that guy, I definitely would sit down and talk with her and be like, you know, what did you think you was going to gain going on Joe Rogan's podcast? And there ain't nothing wrong with Joe Rogan's podcast, but I'm just saying, like, what do you think you're going to gain out of the relationship where you're going out on a podcast and you're talking about, like, how I turned you off because of how I blocked somebody in the middle of a fight? Like, it's things like that where I'm like, you know, you can say, like, it might be like little to no evidence of entitlement with this woman. Like, you'll never find a video where she's out crashing out, being a Karen at a Walmart, a Best Buy, a Target, you know, any and everywhere and stuff. We'll never see that. But just based off of that small little video, yeah, there's definitely some entitlement. And that's the thing. You can't be in a relationship with someone and think that they're entitled to listen to. No, the thing is this. It's one of those things that's just natural. Like, you listen to one another. Like, if there's something that bothers you, you talk about it, and then you let them know, like, hey, this thing that you're saying or doing, it bothers me. They have respect to never do that again. You guys move forward. But I feel like that if the boyfriend were to approach her and be like, you know, why did you go up on Joe Rogan's podcast and was talking about me that way and stuff, she would really try to defend it. She would really try to argue it. And it's like, you're not realizing that what you did. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they're in one of those relationships where it's like, you know, anything goes. Like, there ain't no rules. There ain't no, like, it's just, you can say whatever, do whatever, and I'm not going to lose no sleep over it. If it's one of those relationships, then this podcast episode, parts of it, I guess it doesn't matter. But I just feel like, though, that with people, it's like you have to be respectful to another person. Because I don't know, something like that with me, I guess but me personally, I wouldn't go out and do no stuff like that. I'm not gonna go and be all like, oh yeah, she was in the middle of a fight and the way that she blocked, I'm like, it looked silly and stuff. Meanwhile, I lost the fight that night. You know, like, that's something where I'm like, I just feel like that, you know, at times, like, you see that with relationships where it's like a person, they feel comfortable going out somewhere and talking crazy about them, and it's like, do you want to be in a relationship with them, or do you want to just sit around and talk crazy about them? You know, while you talking crazy about them, that could have been a moment where you could have been texting them or calling them, having a conversation with them, saying how much you love them, how much you care about them, and all this other stuff. No, instead, you'd rather, like, run their name into the dirt and things. And it's like, I don't know, maybe she was thinking along the lines that, oh, her boyfriend, like, he ain't really a podcast listener and stuff, so he ain't going to. And that's the thing. You're thinking along the lines like, oh, he ain't gonna never see this podcast because he don't really be listening or watching podcasts, stuff like that. But my thing is like, if, like, you know, yeah, my girlfriend's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be on the podcast, and I don't really let's be kind of weird since I have a podcast, but I, you know, tell y'all the truth, I really don't be. I'll watch like podcast clips on social media, but yeah, I need to listen to more podcast episodes. I was listening to those the two guys, Peyton and Cameron, You Should Know podcast. I think it was like one episode of theirs. Anyways, I'm getting all distracted and stuff. Yeah, let's keep this, you know, back relationship, you know, advice given and stuff. But yeah, overall though, it's like he goes and he watches that podcast episode, then he approaches you about it and stuff. And he's like, hey, what was up with that? Like, you know, like, why go out on the podcast? Because the funny thing is, like, there's this old TV. Well, I guess it would be considered. It's not, to me, it just don't feel old. But anyways, there's an old TV show that starred Martin Lawrence. It was self-named titled show Martin. And there's a few episodes that he did where he cause they where his character worked at a radio station. Like, yeah, that's how old it was. Like, it was, you know. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I think in this day and age, I would, if a radio station contacted me and was all like, hey, we want you to be a part of our radio show, yeah, I would do it. I'm like, yeah, I feel like that would be cool, you know, live out my kid, well, I mean, it wasn't really a dream, but like, just live out part of my like childhood and stuff, where I'm like, yeah, probably at a point in time, I'm like, yeah, I definitely would have did a radio show. But anyways, but there were a few episodes though where he did go up on that on his show, and he would say some crazy things about either his friends or about his girlfriend Gina. And he got confronted like that. No, I believe that was the very first episode. So he goes. So there's the very first episode. So it shows where he's going into work. He's, I think, trying to like or no. So that's what it is. His girlfriend tells him how her friend Pam would wear these outfits to get like a promotion and raises and all this other stuff. So Martin, instead of just keeping that hush hush and not, just keeping it to himself, he talks about it on his radio show. Now, and it's like, and that's the thing, he's probably thinking like, oh, okay, like Gina and Pam, they ain't gonna be listening to this radio and stuff. Like it's whatever, Fam, Gina and Pam came over to his apartment, and they was ready to go to war. Like, no, they were ready to. Gina was almost about ready to break up with Martin. And Martin, he had to, like, I mean, that man got to jumping around and crying because he didn't want to lose his relationship. And it's funny because I'm like, the reason why I mentioned this show, because I'm like, I guarantee and I promise you, if that would have been that relationship, yeah, the girl probably at first would have been like, oh, you're being sensitive. Like if the UFC boyfriend threatened to leave her, she'd be like, oh yeah, you being sensitive. You shouldn't allow that to get to you and all this other stuff. But if that guy would be like, all right, you know what? Maybe I am being sensitive. I'm still gonna leave this relationship. Relationship is over. If you ain't got no respect, my thing is this: if your respect is at an all-time low, to where you'll go out and talk about me in that sense instead of boosting me up, motivating me, letting me know it's all like, hey, it's like that was just a minor setback in the middle of that fight, but you still won though. No, instead you'd rather say, oh, I turned you off, because I'm like, nah, fam. I'm like, okay, my thing is this, because I know that that's going to happen more than once in my career. And I guess to pretty much save you the embarrassment, I'm going to go ahead and end this relationship. And I guarantee and I promise you, she would have realized how silly it was. And then that's when she'd have been all like, hey, let's work things out. Let's do this. Let's do that. Or maybe, yeah, she would have just, overall just been like, okay, well, it's like, it's whatever then. And then just left the relationship alone. But I'm like, see, fam, that's that entitlement. You're expecting him to put his feelings aside. Meanwhile, you're disrespecting his feelings. That's in my opinion, that's not a good relationship. And I'm like, yeah, if that UFC fighter, if he's still in a relationship with that girl, I'm like, yeah, you're gonna have to sit down and talk with her. But if not, then I'm like, I can understand why, the moves were made in that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it was a situation where she broke up with him and things. I'm like, yeah, that's one of those things where if he sits down and he's thinking about it, like, dang, why did she break up with me? Why did she, fam, don't even question it. A good thing had happened. All right, go out there and find somebody. Go out there and find somebody that'll go on Joe Rogan's podcast and they won't say disrespectful things about you. They'll say good things about you. It's like, it's one of those episodes where it's like, it ain't gonna be no, you guys is going home, and it's all like, dang, so that's how you feel? Like, that's how you, if my thing is this, it's like, if he doesn't care about what she said, then it's like, hey, then like I said, parts of this episode does not matter. But at the same time, respect is always a thing. Like, when you guys get into a relationship, respect, they know, oh, you have to earn my respect. Not in no relationship. when it's the funny thing is like a relationship, yeah, there might not be, you might see here some people, they were like, oh, you gotta sign this, you gotta sign that, you gotta do this, you gotta do that when getting into a relationship and things. But when you get into a relationship, like when y'all are moving in together, you know, you guys got a pet and all this other stuff, like you marriage is on the table, kids is planned and all these other different things, like you guys are in a full-blown relationship. Respect ain't no, oh, you have to earn my respect. You always, and I mean always, respect your significant other. Period. There ain't no, oh, well, I don't care about your relationship. Most common relationships, respect is just automatically given when you get into a relationship. Now, yeah, I guess, like, you know, it'll probably be best to have it where they earn your respect before. But when y'all are in a relationship, that's one thing about it. It's like, I guess because people probably ask, like, well, what would I do in a situation like that? I definitely would have, like, if I was the UFC fighter, the guy, and my girlfriend got on a podcast and started talking to him. I'm like, you know, out of all the things you could have said about me with Joe Rogan, I'm like, I mean, you could even have told him that I was a fan of his back during the Fear Factor days. No, instead, you talk about how I turned you off because of how I blocked another UFC fighter. I'm like, okay, my thing is this. I'm not trying to get into no, I guess, physical altercation, but I definitely would have asked her. I'm like, how should I have blocked this guy? You know, I'm not saying you need to like jump on top of me and start punching me and stuff, but I'm like, cause then I'm gonna have to, you know, I'm gonna have to defend myself and I'm gonna have to put you in the hold about like, hey, you need to calm yourself down and things. You know, I ain't gonna put hands on you, but I'm gonna definitely let you know about yourself and things to be all like, hey, calm down, all right? But my thing is this though, like, but all the things you could have talked about. That's what you decide to talk about. You decide to, you know, I guess like bring me down as a person because it's going to boost your ego or however you want to call it, or your entitlement. It's that strong to where I'm supposed to block somebody in your likings and stuff, or allow myself to just get hit and end up losing the fight. And I'm like, fam, I won that fight. I got the bigger paycheck. I'm like, you know, if we go, my thing is this, and let me have been on the podcast while all that stuff was happening. I definitely would have looked at her and been like, fam, didn't you lose that night? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you obviously didn't take your own advice. I'm like, you just, yeah, you allowed yourself to. I'm like, maybe that's your thing. I'm like, maybe you just allow yourself to get hit and be losing fights and stuff. I'm like, yeah, you trying to have a losing record in UFC. You know, you trying to talk on, oh, the fastest time I was knocked out, not when I knocked somebody out. Oh yeah, I definitely would have got up there and been roasting her. I'm like, yeah, you don't like that, do you? I'm like, yeah, shut all that entitlement and all that stuff down, because I'm like, I'm not with that, you know. So yeah, I'm like, you want to be disrespectful? Oh, fam, the thing is this, you just went to first base with being all disrespectful and stuff. In your head, you went to first base. Me, I'm going for a home run. I'm like, I'm going for a home run, generational run, full-blown crash out, disrespect towards you. That's what I'm aiming for. So yeah, it's just but it's things like that. I'm like, but before it gets to that point though, you should know that something like that ain't gonna be cool. Disrespecting your significant other, and it's like, fam, I ain't even do nothing to you. What's the reason? You know, and it's like, yeah, maybe he might have said something or did something off camera, and then that's why she went on. And I'm like, if that's the case, then I'm like, I don't know. It sounds like that they're in an unhealthy relationship and things. But yeah, if not, she just randomly decides to just go up on there and start talking like that, then it's like, yeah, lady, you gonna find yourself in a position where it's like you ain't gonna be in a relationship no more. So, but anyways, with that being said, I will talk to y'all later. Thank you guys for watching and or listening. Stay tuned for the next episode. Like, subscribe, viewing this on YouTube. Follow, subscribe, viewing this on the podcast streaming service. And peace.